I got tipped off by Eric Wiesman that the Plisen Zoo is the place to be. Started out with some Aldabra tortoises in a large room, then over to the Mengshan viper enclosure, which was beautiful. Had this individual just out basking. It had some water droplets, incredible. The crown jewel of the collection is the spider-tailed viper from Iran. Really cool. I almost missed this individual sitting right in front of the cage, so I got a nice close look at this beautiful species. What an amazing thing. That spider tail is pretty incredible too, but so cryptic and bumpy, looks just like a rock. They had another one up at the top of the exhibit. You couldn't see it very well, but there was kind of a nice view of the spider tail. I was thinking this was the only view I was going to get, but then noticed the one down by the front after the zookeeper pointed him out. What a cool species. The enclosure was a really nice approximation of the rocky outcrops in their natural territory. They've actually reproduced this species. Here was a juvenile that they had on display down the hall from the adults, but pretty crazy. They start out without all the little legs on their spider appendage. They had a really great venomous collection. This is a black mamba hanging out. All the snakes were very active, moving around. We got some inland taipans here, a couple of those in the enclosure. Nice looking animals. Then the common death adder, there were a couple of those as well. But the enclosures were very nice, really well designed, looked really good. As this was the kingdom of venom, it was mainly venomous snakes. Here was a nice black and white cobra, can't remember the species. And then over to the king cobra enclosure. Very large exhibit. This was a fairly large individual, really cool. This was a type of viper, I can't remember. Some green mambas cruising around their cage. They may have been Jamesons, I can't recall. I guess I should look these things up before I start recording. But anyway, really active, moving around the enclosure. It was really cool to see them. Usually snakes in zoos are pretty sedentary, so it was really cool to see a majority of the animals moving around. There were some South American rattlesnakes they had on exhibit, and several black-headed bushmasters, Central American bushmasters, very nice looking snakes in a very cool enclosure. Had lots of different nooks and crannies for them to hang out in. There's a crappy view of an eyelash viper that they had on exhibit. Then this was kind of cool. Over in a different building, they had the Philippine crocodiles. These are highly endangered species, so it's neat to see them cruising around their enclosure inside this large kind of aviary with plants and butterflies and all sorts of things. But this was one of the enclosures in that part of the zoo. There are also a bunch of frogs across from the Philippine crocodiles. Very cool to see so many in the enclosure. Maybe a little overcrowded, but an interesting species. This was a species of New Caledonian parrot that was in the Kingdom of the Venom building, but in the aviary hall. I'd never seen these before. I thought they were really cool looking, very colorful, that cool feather up on top of their head. We almost missed these. This is an Oedura and a spiny-tailed gecko. This was actually in a hallway just outside the restrooms. My wife needed to use the restroom, so we went over. We almost missed this whole thing. There were some Mertens water monitors hanging out in a really good-sized enclosure with a nice water feature, interacting. Looked like there may have been a little courtship behavior going on here, but very cool. What a neat species. And then across from them, just like in a little side enclosure, was the Mitchell's water monitors, Varanus mitchellii. So very cool to see these on exhibit. This is about what we saw in the Northern Territory in Darwin area, very shy. And then it was over to the Kingdom of Drought with these Gila monsters hanging out. These are some of the Centralian earless dragons, and then some African species, some sort of cordelid, and then these speckled padlopers. That was kind of exciting for me. I really was happy to see they had speckled padlopers on exhibit. What a cool little chelonian. I couldn't get enough of him cruising around the enclosure. Very active species. It was really cool to see that. So I actually had to come back and film some more footage of him cruising around the enclosure just to make sure I got something that you could see how visually stunning this little tortoise is. But really cool exhibit. They had a couple of these. And some other tortoises. I believe this was one of the Greek tortoises, the testudo, and then a couple other individuals in the cage. These are some rockogammas of some sort, but yeah, each of the enclosures had really cool plant life, and then kind of multi-species exhibit in addition. So we got a pancake tortoise there and some other cordelid as well. So a couple pancakes in there, but neat plants in this building, and also the animals were very cool. Some sort of plated lizard, and then I believe this is a Madagascan spiny-tailed iguana in one of the other enclosures, but very cool plant life. Then, Australia favorite, the Gidgee skink, really cool to see those. And then this was an outdoor enclosure with some Glotia. This was the best view I got, so that was unfortunate. Then over to the Kingdom of Madagascar with the Madagascan ground boa, and then a big enclosure with a bunch of radiated tortoises. Was very cool. This central enclosure was really neat with some brightly colored lizards. I can't recall the species name. These are some mud turtles that were hanging out in there as well. And then a different enclosure with some day geckos, as well as a really large Madagascan velvet gecko that was hanging up in the trees above. These four-lined girdle lizards were really cool, and they were hanging out in an enclosure with some common spider tortoises. Lots of cool Madagascan species on display, and some new ones that I hadn't really seen, so that was pretty cool. The last area had some European natives, including this European glass lizard with a nice view of the city. Then a bunch of Herman tortoises, different species or subspecies of Hermans. And the last enclosure had some battling marginated tortoises that were in breeding mode, it appeared. So really cool display out here, and lots of cool tortoises. All in all, it was a fantastic zoo, and I hope to make it back there someday soon.